Alright. Alright, so this for 13, 14, and 15, and 16. Sohcahtoa is the only thing I'll have to teach you inside of this, so it might not make a little bit of sense because I'll go a little fast on it. Okay? But everything else you guys have. Okay? So we know it's a rafter. Okay? The rafter of the roof. Remember? And we know that this is 16 and this is 16. And they just told us that the other piece is 24. So we know this is 24 feet. So we have basically an isosceles triangle. Right? And we know the base. Now, if I draw a perpendicular, right? Then we know, because it's an isosceles triangle, that this becomes both.
Olivia Kornhofer to the middle school office. Olivia Kornhofer to the middle school office.
This becomes an angle bisector. So these angles are congruent. And a segment bisector, which means that these sides are congruent. And if those two sides are congruent, how long is each one of those? 12. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And now we have a right triangle, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And they want to know, how high is the roof? Well, that means we have 16, 12, and an unknown, right? And a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is c. And a and b, or vice versa, right? So then 16 squared is equal to 12 squared plus x squared, right? So 144 plus x squared is equal to 256, right? What do we do?
Do algebra?
Yeah, just subtract, right?
Yeah.
X squared is equal to 2, 1, 1, so 112. Then what? Square root both sides, right? X is equal to the square root of 112. Now we got to break down 112. So 2 is 5 with 1, so that's 5 and 12 would be 6, so 56. 2 would be 20. Try again. 3 and 5.
Oh.
You always forget the 25 part to 50. You see the 3, but it's really the 3 and the 5, right? Okay? And then 2, 2, and then 7, right? And then we pair it up, right? So we have a pair and a pair. So we have a 2, and the square root of 7. So what's 2 times 2? 4. So x is equal to 4 square roots of 7. Okay? And that's how tall it is. So how high is it? 4 square roots of 7. And if we want, we could say that that's 4 square roots of 7. That's 10.58 feet. Okay? Or 10 feet, 6 inches, 10 feet, 7 inches, something like that. Take 0.58 times it by 12 and you get about 7. Okay? 10 feet, 7 inches-ish, or whatever. Okay? So, depends on what they want. Do they want it in feet and inches? Then you have to subtract 10, and then times that by 12. And you would get 6.999, which is 10 feet, 7 inches. Yeah. Perfect. Right? Okay. Next, what is the pitch? We need to know what pitch is. Well, the pitch of the roof, right, is what is the angle right here? That's your roof pitch, right? Your rise and your run. Okay? Your rise and your run. It's slope, but it's a slope coming from this side. If you think about it, they're going to be the same, but one's going to be negative slope, one's going to be positive slope. Does that make sense? Okay? They'll both have the same slope, just one's negative, one's positive. Right?
Yeah.
Okay? But is that true? No, that's not totally true. They will be flipped. Oh yeah, they will be they won't be flipped because they're not necessarily perpendicular. Right? So they're not necessarily flipped. Looks like this slope is going to rise and run the same amount that this is going to run and rise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the run and the rise on both sides is going to be the same. So they're not inverses. They're only opposites. So one's a negative slope, one's a positive slope.
Okay.
Okay? So we need to know how much is it running and how much is it rising.
10.58.
10.58 is the rise. Right? Rise over run, right? Rise
All
over run.
those interested in high school softball, please report to the locker room right after school. All
Over.
those interested in high school softball, please report to the locker room right after school. Thank you.
12. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? So that's your pitch. Okay? Now, when they want to know the base of the angle, right? Then we have to use what's called Sohcahtoa. The sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? Cosine theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now we have two really nice numbers, 16 and 12. And when we're talking about this angle, this is adjacent. This is the hypotenuse. So we have adjacent and hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine. Okay? So the cosine of theta, or the angle, right, is equal to the adjacent, which is 12, over the hypotenuse, which is 16. Okay? Now we could break that down. 4 goes into both of those. 3 and 4 times. So the cosine of theta is equal to 3/4. Right? Now, to find the angle, we do what's called the inverse cosine. And that's equal to the angle. And so now we can just take the inverse cosine, okay, of 3 divided by 4. And we get 41.4. Okay? So, that means theta is 41.4.